Greetings, ladies and gents, and any non-binary friends. I was trying to think of something that would rhyme, but welcome to the Season 4 finale for the DarkspiderCast. As always, I tend to do 10 episodes per season, take a bit of a week-long break, and then come back as strong as I can be for the preceding season, because, after a while, you kind of want things to marinate as far as gaming news, movie news, anything that's really worth talking about, as well as also build up a little bit on the story, especially since we're starting to go into the direction where not a whole lot of interesting stuff on my side of the universe is really happening to really divulge into for the intro portions of some of these episodes. I mean, it's getting a little... I don't want to say tedious, but just getting in the realm of getting mundane. That's the word I was looking for. So basically, we have a few topics to really talk about here and we're also going to be switching things up just a little bit as far as our usual structure for the finale here of the DarkspiderCast, because we are going to obviously have a little bit of a small talk intro here to talk about some really quick things that I kind of want to get off my chest. I'm not going to get as personal and as drab as I was last week, although there is one thing that I look at myself and go, wow, things aren't the way that they used to. But we are going to be changing up the structure here because, as I teased on last week's episode, we are going to be having, or at least I'm going to be having, a form of Game of the Year discussion on the finale here for Season 4 of the DarkspiderCast, figuring that we are in the midst of July, more so on the tail end of July here. It's probably a good time as any to at least have a bit of a, I guess you could call it a Game of the Year check-in on what exactly it has the potential to be at the very least in my top 5, possibly top 10 if it's able to increase in size as far as the games that I'm playing and the games that are worthy of those accolades. I think last time I checked, I've played about 13-14 games. Not all of them have been winners necessarily, or some of them have been good but not great, and because of that, I feel like we're still in the area of just having it be a top 5, but who knows? There's still quite an awful lot to get through, provided that none of the games that are still remaining on my 2022 list do not get delayed, or something happens that makes me go, yeah, I can't afford this. I don't know. We'll see how things go down from there. But I do want to have a Game of the Year discussion, but because that's a very monumentous topic, I'm going to save that for the end. And likewise, my What I've Been Playing segment will also be pushed towards the end of the podcast, this episode, because the game that I'm playing is actually not only a 2022 game, but it's also a game that could be entering the Game of the Year discussion, not just for myself, but for a lot of people in the circuit, people who work for IGN, for all these publications, or just gaming influencers on social media, on YouTube, Twitter, whatever. I have been talking about this game that is not Elden Ring. I'm not going to... spoilers, it's not Elden Ring. And that's another thing, is that this is going to be a Game of the Year discussion coming from someone who has not played Elden Ring. That's going to be a first. But it's still in the cards to at least get out of my backlog in the back half of 2022. I've just been really busy with other stuff, and plus, like I mentioned in a couple of episodes before, my current Xbox controller is a little bit on the drifty side with one of the sticks, and I know that with a game as precise and as reliant on pinpoint accuracy and hand-eye coordination like Elden Ring deserves a brand new controller. Spoilers, I actually did buy a brand new controller. Not a custom-made controller like I originally wanted to. My original plan was to spend like an $80-$90 on one of those custom controllers where you get to customize the color of the buttons and the bumpers and the sticks and all that stuff. Obviously, right now with my current unemployment status, that's becoming a little difficult to do. But on top of that, not too long ago, Target actually had a sale, well, not really a sale, but like an offer that was exclusive to me. Well, not exclusive to me, but exclusive to some people that the app can kind of tell are gamers based on past purchases and search history. And they were like, hey, let me send this offer to you. It's 30% off a controller. And not only was the controller on sale, but it actually did stack with the coupon. And so I ended up getting, and I had a $10 coupon savings type of like rewards points things at Target. So I was like, yeah, screw it. I used them up, and I pretty much got one of those Pulse Red Xbox Series X controllers for $30, down from I think 60 or 65. So from 65, I got it for 30 bucks. I pretty much got it for a little over half off, and I was like, yeah, for $30, it's pulse red. I like the shade of red that they used on this controller, but I don't like how the back of it is white. I really do not like that. I really don't like it whatsoever. And because of that, that's why it kept me from purchasing it at full price. But I figured, you know what, for $30, let's do this. So I technically do have a brand new controller to start up Elden Ring. I just got to find the time to actually jump into this game and have my mindset focused on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, go all in. And also, I'm waiting for a decent little lull in my backlog, because there's still technically a couple of other games that I want to get out of the way before I finally tackle the Goliath. I am David, and I will tackle the Goliath that is known as Elden Ring. All right, so for the time being, however, I am playing a game that is in the Game of the Year discussion, so that's gonna basically put off the what I've been playing segment as well as the Game of the Year discussion towards the tail end for this episode. In the meantime, though, like I said, I got the intro. I got some stories relating to a particular loyalty program that Sony's going to be enacting. Multiversus is going into its open beta mode, and with it, they're celebrating it by including a fan favorite character that tugs at my heartstrings every time I watch his movie. And then we also have a couple of release dates or announcements related to Robocop and Bayonetta 3. So all that and more is coming up here in the finale for Season 4 of the DarkspiderCast. In the meantime, let me just talk to you guys real quick. As I speak right now, my mouth is starting to gel together, so eventually I'm going to have to down some more water, but I frankly feel like I have never drunk more water now in my current stance of living than I have ever done prior in my life, because that's just how badly it's getting up here in the high desert where I live. The heat is just, and I don't know if, like I said, it's a combination of, this is what I was talking about how I wasn't going to start off the episode on a drab note like I did last week's, but there's one thing that I look at and I go, wow, it's just not the way that I used to be, and that is how my body overall just reacts to heat. It doesn't do well anymore. It just doesn't have as high as a tolerance as it used to. Like just a matter of 3 or 4 years ago, I used to tell my girlfriend, like, I'm used to it. I used to go to Mexico on the holidays all the time, and they would have like 110 degree weather, and my body was able to sustain it. Now I don't know what's happened. I don't know if it's happened because ever since I turned 30, or if it's because I stay in way much more than I have ever done in my life, because I just don't like going out, period, especially in the city that I live in. I feel like going out just puts you at a greater risk of getting assaulted, frankly, because that's all that's in the fucking news. But yeah, just my body's just not able to tolerate heat too much, to the point where I don't know if it's coming across too well on mic. I'm gonna have to probably listen to this on playback, but I do have a fan on here in the corner. It's on oscillating mode, so it's kind of rotating, and it's relatively quiet, so you may or may not hear it. I don't think you'll hear the fan. You might hear the wind blow on the microphone, and if not, then that's actually pretty stupendous, if you will. But yeah, I need to have this fan on because I will probably be in a much worse condition right now than before. Honestly, if this fan was not on, my mouth would be much more chapped and dried off. I would be feeling a little delirious, a little lightheaded, a little out of wind. I would not be able to breathe comfortably. And that's the thing, is that for the past, I want to say, month, almost every day has been somewhere between, at best, the low 90s, at worst, 105, 106. And it has not let up. Not even when the sun goes down. It's still, you can still feel it kind of radiate off the fucking pavement. And yeah, guys, I just don't know what to tell you. Like, my body's just, I'm out there for just 5 or so minutes, and I already feel myself shutting down. I can't talk to anybody. I can barely drive. I can barely feel like I can put together a thought or a sentence or passage, so to speak. And so, yeah, I've just been kind of, dealing with that for the past couple of days. I did a handful of interviews within the past week. I've done about 3 interviews, and of course, trying to put thoughts together for those conversations and those questions. That's also been a task and a chore in and of themselves. Frankly, though, these days I don't know how to call interviews anymore. Like, I feel like there's some that I feel go well and they ended up being bad because then I get the rejection letter, and then there's others that I thought they were okay, and then they end up going either way. I either do get an offer, but it's for a job that I didn't really care for, or it's, um, or of course I get rejected. I don't know. There's just no feasible way to call these interviews anymore. There really isn't. But I got them done. I've got the past three done. Otherwise, though, the process of filing for unemployment and kind of um, getting by on that is so far on course. So far, it looks like everything is going fine just there. So at least food will be covered as far as like things that I want to get for food, for snacks, getting more water. I just mentioned with the whole situation with the heat, getting myself some more bottles of water. Um, yeah, other than that, like I said, it's just teetering on the mundane. That's another reason for why I like to take these breaks in between quote unquote seasons, is so that maybe if something were to pass as far as very fascinating piece of news, I at least have stuff to bank. So that then if the fascinating story comes up, I'll at least be able to tell it on the podcast. Now, with that said, one little interesting thing that has happened is the unprecedented success of my Spider-Man Lotus video essay that I mentioned a couple of episodes back. I was putting together and editing for the niche channel. It has since gone up this past Friday, and yeah, I was expecting it to do decent. I'm not even gonna lie. I was expecting it to at least hit the thousands, like one, maybe 2,000 views within a couple of days, because this is still, I don't want to say a trending topic, like it's not trending on Twitter or even YouTube for that matter, but I think some people are still kind of interested in what's kind of developing from that story and what's going to come of the fan film, if it's going to be released, if there's any updates, new information, that kind of thing. I think that's still on people's heads somewhat. It's not, like I said, the hottest topic ever, but it's still resonating in some people's minds. And I think maybe that timing combined with a little bit of luck and a little bit of favoritism from that YouTube recommendation system / algorithm. Yeah, actually, you know what? Let me go over here to my trusty computer, because that's actually how speedy it's gotten in terms of performance, because it's frankly being updated rather frequently. When I posted it, like I said, within 24 to 48 hours, it was doing modestly enough, like a couple hundred, like 3, 4, maybe 500 views. And that was on Friday. July, what was it, 13th or 4? No, 15th. July 15th is when I posted it. I am recording this just a few days later, 4 days or 5 days, about 5 days later. Well, no, 4 days later, July 19th is when I'm recording this first portion of the podcast. So hello from the past if you're hearing this in the future. But at the time of this recording, or recording this portion of the podcast, the video is clocking in, or counting in, I should say, at 28.5 thousand views. 28.5 thousand views. It's currently sitting at a 1 out of 10 as far as that ranking, and has not budged whatsoever. And let me see the exact, because yeah, watch time is through the roof. The video itself, I mean, this is not accounting for all the other videos and their performances and what they're ranking in as far as subscribers, but this video alone has brought in 158 brand new subscribers to the niche channel, and it's doing gangbusters. And I honestly was not expecting it. It's funny because there's a part of me that is just flabbergasted and happy and just overjoyed and thankful. But another part of me is like, okay, now what do I do? What do I do for a follow-up? I'm terrified for what the follow-up video would be, because currently right now I'm putting together a new McFarlane Toys review. But at the same time, I'm scared that people who subscribe for the Spider-Man Lotus essay are going to then watch that next video, or find that next video in their feed and be like, that's not what I subscribed for, and then boot out. Which is just naturally going to happen for some people, but I just don't want it to happen for the majority. You get what I'm saying? So right now it's sitting at those amount of views, 28.5, over 148 comments, and so far sitting at 1,250 likes. It's a 98.7 like to dislike ratio. It's outstanding. Like, so many comments, so many people coming through, and like I said, I cannot be just more floored by this and thankful and appreciative. I just was not expecting. Uh, like I said, I was expecting it to do it decent. I wasn't expecting it to be a bomb whatsoever. I was expecting it to perform decently and well off, but just not to the, as I put it in my community post, to the astronomical levels that it did manage to garner. And it's rather insane. It really, really, really is insane. And I don't know how many of those people will be coming on over to the podcast, or if they're going to be checking this out on the YouTube channel for the podcast. But if you're listening and you're one of those people that checked out the Spider-Man Lotus essay, whether you're a first timer on the channel or revisiting, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're lighting up a spark. You're a spark in my ass, like one guy said on Hell's Kitchen, very awkwardly. But it definitely did something to not only get the serotonin levels up, but also get a little re-inspired to get back into the swing of things as far as content creation and editing, and just percolating a lot of other ideas as far as video essays, as far as what can I put together that is just like the Spider-Man Lotus essay, but it's not another video essay on Spider-Man Lotus. I don't want to mooch off of this topic and just make another one just for the sake of feeding into the drama, feeding into the gossip. I want to make something that's maybe like a predecessor or a spiritual brother to this video, but it's not exactly on Spider-Man Lotus again. Like, could it be a discussion about who's the better Spider-Man, what's the better Spider-Man cartoon? Recently, Spectacular Spider-Man dropped on Netflix, and I'm hearing that Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi trilogy, is going to be dropping on Netflix in August. So there's some discussions there that could be had as far as video ideas. In the meantime, though, just to kind of supplement the channel with some content, I got more figure reviews. Like I said, right now I'm putting together a video about the Dark Knight Returns McFarlane figures that are not Batman. So, whether or not somebody should collect the rest of the wave and to build the horse. Last night, I found something at GameStop that I probably shouldn't have bought because I'm over here saying, oh, I need money. And yet I saw it there. A lot of websites, including GameStop, list this figure as not supposed to be released until August. So that alone made me go, yo, I think I should probably take this thing home. I think I should take this thing home and probably make that my next review after the one I'm working on. And so, yeah, I'm hoping that people don't get that checked out the Spider-Man Lotus essay and subscribed do not get turned away from then seeing some Batman-related stuff on the channel, Batman figures show up on the channel. But that's what comes with the territory of being a YouTube when you're kind of niched, but not 100% niched. It's not a full-on Spider-Man channel. So I also want to make it clear that, I need to start working on that next Spider-Man essay or the next Spider-Man-related video, whatever it may be. And so that's one of the things that has been crossing my mind, and one of the more eventful things that has happened in this week that is, like I said, a bit of a victory. And to make matters slightly, just a little bit more victorious, this morning I got an email that I was waiting on, which is basically that when I posted this essay, because it involves themes centering around racism and homophobia and xenophobia and all these other things that were controversially said by the director and the writer, I submitted the video with honest ratings for the ad suitability, and because of that, it got limited ads, limited to no ads. So I had that yellow symbol on it. Once I saw that it started to get up there in the thousands of views, where it was like 10, 15,000 views, a couple of days ago, I was like, I think I should maybe at least try to appeal this. And so I submitted an appeal literally just 2 days ago, and to have the video be suitable for all ads, not limited ads, but all ads, meaning ads will play no matter what. It's not going to be like, oh, this person's underage, so we're not going to play ads at all. I submitted an appeal, and 2 days later, here I am. I wake up in the morning, and I got an email saying you've been approved. So another little mini victory for the channel, even though I'm still not finding a job and little things here and there have been a little bit on the inconvenient side. At least there's a small little victory for me to latch onto, and I can at least be happy and appreciative of that. Okay, so ordinarily here's where we either talk about whatever show I'm currently watching, or that's not like on the older side, or what I've been playing. So naturally, there's no ongoing shows right now, except kind of, sort of, maybe Better Call Saul. Because as far as the show rotations, the rotation of TV shows that I'm watching, most of them are a little bit on the older side. They're backlog stuff. The only one that's kind of ongoing, and even then I'm about a week, an episode behind, is Better Call Saul. We just had episode, I want to say 8, no, 9. And I have yet to watch 8. I'm probably gonna watch 8 tonight. Which is technically the mid-season premiere. So basically, the episode after the mid-season premiere is where we're at, where the rest of the world, the country is at. But I'm an episode behind. What I'm thinking of doing is just keeping that going until we get to the finale, and then maybe then I'll do, just to end on a big hurrah, I'll watch the episode, the prior week's episode and the finale together, instead of putting off the finale. That way I don't risk anything coming through, either through Twitter or through Instagram, as far as spoilers, so I don't have to worry about anything like that. And just in one swoop, that week that the finale debuts, I'll watch the penultimate episode and then that finale, and make it a big 2-hour event. You get what I'm saying? And just go off on a big hurrah there for the series finale of Better Call Saul, and that's gonna be epic. It's gonna be epic, but also possibly tear-jerking. So that's the only real, very contemporary thing that I'm watching right now. Everything else is just a lot of backlog stuff. Season 2 of Umbrella Academy, Season 2 of Ozark, so you can tell I'm super behind. So not a whole lot to really talk about there. And then the What I've Been Playing segment is going to be pushed off later for the Game of the Year to segue into the Game of the Year discussion. So we're going to be tackling some of these news stories. The first one that I'm going to be talking about is Sony introducing, pretty much finally after a while of practically not having one, a form of loyalty program that is called PlayStation Stars. Not to be confused with Facebook Gaming Stars, but basically it's going to be similar to the way that Xbox has like their game points or whatever they're called. And then of course traditional retailers like Best Buy's got the rewards program, Target's got their own. I don't even know if Amazon has one. They definitely have their own credit card, but you get the gist. So I have the article here from IGN. Sony, in quote, Sony has announced a new a new reward points program called PlayStation Stars that will allow players to earn points with real cash value. Announced on the PlayStation blog, the loyalty program will begin later this year, though Sony didn't say when exactly. They're beginning a lot of stuff today, or this year, around this realm. We just had the extra and premium tiers for the new subscription service, and now they're doing the rewards program, which maybe might symbiotically benefit each other. We'll see. And will be free to sign up to. Cool. Players will be able to complete objectives, with some as simple as playing a game once a month, to earn points that can be later redeemed on the PlayStation Store or for other rewards. The catalog of items may include PSN wallet funds, that's actually pretty sick, and select PlayStation Store products. And members of PlayStation Plus will also receive points for purchasing items on the store, similar to the My Nintendo program on Switch. That's actually another one that I forgot to mention, is how whenever you buy games, you automatically earn those gold coins that, say, for example, if you bought like a $60 game, you usually get about 60 gold coins. And when every 100 gold coins is like $1. So if you have like 400 coins, that's $4. $4 you can get off of a digital game. So if a game's like $10, you can get it for $6. That's how it kind of works on over there. Going back to the article here, outside of PlayStation Store-related rewards, users can also earn digital collectibles that are digital representations of things PlayStation fans enjoy, including figurines of beloved and iconic characters from games and other forms of entertainment, as well as cherished devices that tap into Sony's history of innovation. Now, the first image that pops into my head when they describe this was pretty much all the stuff that you can kind of mess around with in Astro's Playroom. If any of you own a PS5 and played Astro's Playroom, then you know that there's a segment of the game where you pretty much can collect little trophies, so to speak, that are pretty much 3D representations of Sony-related stuff, like the PS1, PS2, and then some very niche things like the PlayStation Pocket and a couple of other peripherals. Now, when people read this, they did get a little scared, because when they read digital collectibles and digital representations, the other thing that popped into people's heads were NFTs, and that could pose reason for concern. And never say never. You get what I'm saying? Even though the crypto market and the NFT market is plummeting right now, it is technically still alive. And so it's still a little bit tumultuous to think that maybe someone like Sony can try to revive it in this manner, or at least cover it in sheep's clothing. And the sheep's clothing could be in the form of these, like I said, these digital trophies. Additionally, according to the Washington Post, the first player to get the platinum trophy in certain games will receive an extra special award, which no one else can get. Okay, now I'm not gonna lie, that part did sound like an NFT. I cannot tell a lie. It's not clear exactly how this will work. There's mention of it being within a local time zone, so it could be a territory race for the platinum rather than a global one. But PlayStation has promised it will crack down on any attempts to get the rewards through fraudulent means. New collectibles will be added regularly, with Sony stating that some will be particularly rare and something for players to continuously work towards. The program will mark another upgrade to Sony's digital offerings, as it recently introduced the new PlayStation Plus tiers, like I mentioned, and a couple of other stuff to compete with Game Pass, as the article entails here, and it's pretty much wrapped up there. So how do I feel about this? Honestly, like I said, all that digital representation and digital rewards, I'm not gonna lie, I can't blame anyone that hears this and goes, oh, that sounds like an NFT scam or an NFT program of some sorts. I cannot blame them whatsoever. If they hear that and that's really what they translate it to, I can see that, to be quite honest. But what I personally look at and go, this could be dope, is what it pretty much said at the beginning. What it kind of breezed on over in this article, in this passage, is where it mentioned digital editions, or where did I say right here? I'm actually going to go ahead and open the PlayStation blog, but where it mentioned right here that to earn points that can be later redeemed on the PlayStation Store. Points that could be redeemed at the PlayStation Store. The catalog of items may include PSN wallet funds and select PlayStation Store products. That to me is probably the most appealing thing. I don't give a fuck about these like exclusive things that only you can earn. No, I just care about playing games, earning points, and then using those points so I can get more games. I mean, yes, it's a very addictive cycle, and will probably make the backlog even bigger than it needs to be. But being able to get a discount on a game that's been on my radar for the longest time, and then it finally goes on sale through PlayStation Plus, you get that double discount through a standard PS Store discount, and then you get an even deeper discount because you're a PlayStation Plus Essential subscriber, and then on top of that, you have like $5 worth of points added to your funds or added to your profile, and you can use that to get it even cheaper. That's what I'm looking at. That's probably the most appealing aspect about this entire campaign, or this entire program. And if that's gonna be the case, I'm all for it. I'm actually pretty down with this kind of reward system, and it's because of this style of reward system that opened the gateway, whether you look at it as a positive or a negative, opened the gateway for me to make some blind purchases on the eShop for my Nintendo Switch. There's certain games that I wouldn't have bought if I didn't discover that I had almost $10 worth of gold points, and then on top of that, the game was being discounted from like $30 to $16. And I had $10, and I heard great things about this game, often being critically reviewed well. I was like, yo, I can get it for $6? Screw it. And I bought it, played it, and I really enjoyed the game. I might be completely wrong about this, but I think that's how I got Oxenfree. No, not Oxenfree. It was a different game. Oxenfree was through Game Pass, but there was a different game that I played on Switch that made me go, yo, this was an awesome game, and I wouldn't have gotten it if it wasn't for the 1-2 punch motivation of it being on sale and getting even a deeper sale because of the gold points that I have accrued and were about to expire. Which I guess brings my other question that I think they have yet to answer amongst the other questions they probably have, including the release date or when they can start rolling this out, is are there going to be expiration points on these points, on these stars as they calling them? Because so far I'm breezing through the PlayStation blog, and I am failing to see if there's going to be any kind of, let's see, today I'm pleased to reveal, this is off the blog itself. Today I'm pleased to reveal PlayStation Stars, a brand new loyalty program that celebrates you, the player, for being on this ever-growing gaming journey with us. PlayStation Stars will be free to join when it launches later this year. Once you become a member, you'll earn rewards by completing a variety of campaigns and activities. Our monthly check-in campaign simply requires you to play any game to receive a reward, while other campaigns require you to win tournaments, earn specific trophies, or even be the first player to platinum a blockbuster title in your local time zone. So it's not a global thing, it is a time zone thing. All PlayStation Star members will have opportunities to earn loyalty points. Points can be redeemed in a catalog that may include PSN Wallet funds and select PlayStation Store products, maybe even an entire game that's probably on its way out of being removed from the store, delisted, I don't know. As an additional benefit, PlayStation enrolled in PlayStation Stars automatically earn points for purchases on PlayStation Store. Also, as part of PlayStation Stars, we'll be unveiling a new type of reward called Digital Collectibles, yada, yada, yada. I'm not seeing anything that involves expirations. I think that's something that they might have to answer later on in the future once they finally disclose when this is going to start to roll out. As they mentioned right here, we're currently doing some early tests on this program before launching it later this year in phased regional rollouts. So yeah, it's going to be like a slow, churned out thing, similar to the way that the recent PlayStation Plus tiers were ousted. So we're just going to have to wait and see. But this is, this combined with the PlayStation Plus tiers, it looks like, you know, as limited as it still may come off, and as late as it may turn out to be compared to how ahead in the race Xbox already is with the offerings it manages to make with Game Pass, and those Game Pass points or those gamer points you're able to earn through booting up games on Game Pass and earning certain achievements and such. PlayStation slowly, but you know, it's a case of better late than never, basically, that Sony's finally making moves on this front, and I'm happy for them. Just hope that once again, they don't fall back on their laurels and start doing this whole methodical thing of taking one step forward and two steps back as far as appealing to the consumer. So a few months back, I think I did mention at one point that I did play the closed beta of Multiversus. And if Multiversus sounds a little familiar to you, it should, because it's basically Warner Brothers' or WB Games' answer to fill in the void left by the, I guess you could call it the ending of Smash Bros. Ultimate, since now officially Smash Bros. Ultimate is done with its DLC releases, its development. It's pretty much done, and the future of the Smash Bros. Franchise is kind of, I guess, somewhat up in the air, if you want to call it that way. And so to kind of, like I said, fill in that void, fill in that hole, and scratch people's itches for a platform fighter is going to be the one that at least looks the most promising, because we all kind of thought maybe that was going to be Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl, but that one got off to a little bit of a rough start due to its limited budget, and now that we finally do have voice acting and all that stuff, it's still a game that you have to go out and buy, and it came at a somewhat of a steep price point. Every so often it goes on sale for like a good $15-20, but it still had a price point to begin with. So for Multiversus, Warner Brother Games' and Players, I think it's called Players First Games, entry into this overall genre is going to be free to play. So anybody can play it on across different consoles. I think it's also cross-play. And so there's a lot of favorable there's a lot of territory there to work with the consumer, with the player, to actually be fun. And so Multiversus has had several closed betas, some of which had to be under NDA, and then a couple of others that weren't under NDA. And surprisingly, I was one of the people that was allowed into the closed beta, tested it on the PS5, and had a really great amount of time. I can't believe I'm not going to say I can't believe I'm saying this, but in a very unexpected twist, my main is Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn, I cannot get enough of playing as Harley Quinn. And that's saying that it's crazy that I'm saying this with my boy Batman being right there, and then playing as Batman and frankly not having that great of a time with him. I don't hate him. I don't hate playing as him, but I'm just kind of like, he's okay or whatever. Like, I kept resorting back to Harley Quinn. Playing as Harley Quinn was just a lot more fun to me, and I grinded. Wait, let me let me pause here and pray and choose my words carefully here. But basically, I was able to grind out her progression in a way where I was able to pretty much level her up beyond any other characters and accrue enough points to get her a new banner, get some new things, some new customizable stuff for the character, and just overall, I just enjoyed playing as her way more. But the big picture thing, though, is that I had a great time playing the game up until the beta closed. And now, at the very end of that beta, they did mention that there was going to be another one in July. And so now we have a new open beta with some people receiving early access as of, well, now, and then a completely open beta for everyone that is not even invitation only. Because right now, I think the people who got invitations can join. And all they really have to do is just update the version on their console unless they're playing on PC. If they're playing on PC, they're going to need a new code. However, the open beta for everyone across the board, regardless of whether you are invited or not, will open on July 26th. And in celebration of that, it looks like Multiversus is adding a brand new character. So this is the article over from IGN. Multiversus, Warner Brothers Games, and Player First Games free-to-play crossover platform fighter featuring such characters as Batman, Superman, Bugs Bunny, Arya Stark, and Iron Giant. Spoilers, I guess they threw it in there, will begin its open beta on July 26, 2022. The open beta will be available on PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and PC with full cross-play support, so that answers that, and dedicated server-based robot netcode for robust online competition. That's the thing, is that when I was playing, even on the closed beta, whether it be the super early ones on PC or the much later ones on PS5, very difficult to not find someone, and find someone that will not drop midway through. And the response is just like 90% great. It was 90% there. I think a couple of times here and there I experienced just a little bit of lag, but it was not make or break, so to speak. So continuing on here, quote, Multiversus will also have an early access period that will start on July 19th, as I mentioned, and will be accessible by those who participated in the Multiversus closed alpha. If you were not part of that alpha, you can earn a code via Twitch drops. You can learn more about the open beta and early access by visiting Multiversus FAQ. Iron Giant was featured in Multiversus open beta gameplay trailer and is part of a roster that includes Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Harley Quinn, Shaggy, Velma, Bugs Bunny, Tasmanian Devil, Arya Stark, Tom and Jerry, Jake the Dog, Finn the Human, Steven Universe, Garnet, and the original character Rain Dog. Rain Dog is the only original character made from scratch for this game. And it shows, because it's my least favorite character out of the entire bunch, to be quite honest. The open beta and early access will have 8 maps, including the Batcave, Adventure Time, Street Forward, Scooby-Doo's Haunted Mansion. There will also be a variety of game modes available, like 2v2, 1v1, 4-player free-for-all, co-op, and AI matches, custom online lobbies, the lab, etc., etc. In the we said okay, so yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. Basically, the beta's finally opening up so that everybody's going to be able to play, and they're throwing in Iron Giant. So a good reason for me to revisit the game, because not only will I just need to update the PS5 version that I already have in my library, but it's opening up again, and I generally had that amount of great fun time with the game that I'm willing to revisit it and at least try out Iron Giant. The only thing that worries me about Iron Giant is the scaling, because I saw the trailer and I'm like, yeah, he's definitely not to scale, because obviously if he was, he would not be fitting on the map. So there's going to be some compromises there, but I'm curious to see how that's going to factor in to the overall gameplay aesthetic of him versus other characters, like I said, my main, Harley Quinn, and then all the others. So I know that it was a bit more on the quicker side of things as far as this news piece, but I wanted to talk about it because, like I said before, I really enjoyed my time with Multiversus. It might actually, hey, who knows, might be popping up again later on when I tackle Game of the Year. We shall see. And then just a couple of new, also similarly quick stories, because they really are just on the brink of showing a trailer, having a release window, release date, and saying this game still exists and it's coming. So the first one is actually more of a surprise drop. A lot of people were really not expecting this kind of project to be underway, and so now it's something to expect in June of 2023, and that is a Robocop first-person shooter. So this is the article from IGN. Upcoming FPS Robocop Rogue City has shown off its first gameplay and revealed lead character Alex Murphy with the full likeness of original actor Peter Weller. The game is now scheduled to arrive in June 2023. So judging by the way that this is phrased, I guess this is not really that much of a surprise drop. It was a surprise drop for me. I did not know that there was a Robocop game in development, and now it looks like it is. Shown off at today's Nacon Connect showcase, we got a look at the game's dystopian Detroit from the first-person perspective of Robocop himself, amid what seems to be gang violence across the city. Combat appears to be a mix of gunplay and melee, with Murphy's targeting systems used to take out hard-to-hit enemies. We can even see an ED-209 robot join the fray. Aiming for release on PC, PS5, and Series X and S, Robocop Rogue City will combine first-person shooter gameplay with exploration of Detroit and multiple-choice dialogue, according to Nacon. The game was first announced last year. Okay, so fuck me, I guess. I don't know. How did I miss this? How did I not know that this was coming out? That's crazy. That's insane. And is based on the original 1987 movie, but will tell a brand new story in that setting. It's being developed by Teon, which previously created Terminator Resistance. That's my worry, is that I've seen the trailer, and the actual graphics they're using on some of the character models, specifically on that of Peter Weller's Alex Murphy, looks pretty good. You know, it looks like if they could play the cards right, they could really take advantage of the next gen hardware or on really souped up PCs for ray tracing, especially with the character like Robocop. Ray tracing is quite literally the sheen that is needed on a game like this as far as graphical performance. What concerns me most, though, is gameplay, because I don't remember people receiving Terminator Resistance all that well. I don't think it was trashed either. I think it performed kind of meh as far as critical reception. So I would really like for a Robocop first-person shooter game to be awesome. With that said, like I said, with the pedigree of Terminator Resistance and with other what were originally perceived to be first-person shooters based on these properties, like that Rambo game. I don't know what it is, but I can't seem to not think of that Rambo game, that on-rails first-person shooter Rambo game that legitimately is trash. I don't even have to play that, and I watched enough gameplay to be like, I'm not doing that. I'm not subjugating myself to doing that. So I wish it the best, but, you know, hearing that description does sound like it could be pretty fucking cool. Like a Robocop game with first-person shooter gameplay with exploration of Detroit and multiple-choice dialogue. You know what that also sounds like? Cyberpunk 2077, except if they can maybe keep it kind of compact, it doesn't sound like they're going for open world. So if it's meant to be like a linear thing, it says exploration of Detroit, but what's the extent of the exploration? That's something that they're probably going to have to answer, because is it open world or is it going to be linear with like patches of open worldness, kind of like Uncharted, where it was mainly linear, but ever so often you would have that Jeep area where you can kind of explore a little sandbox pocket, or if it's just going to be a straightforward corridor shooter. I don't know. Like, the little bit of gameplay that we did see was just kind of navigation stuff, and then a handful of cutscenes from the first-person perspective, all leading up to, like I said, a shot of him approaching the camera and being like, dead or alive, you're coming with me. Now, along with that, there are some gameplay screenshots that, again, look pretty decent as far as the graphical fidelity, but we're going to have to see just a little bit more as we roll a little quicker here to release, which is, technically speaking, a little bit of a ways out, damn near a year. So I'm cautiously optimistic about a Robocop game. Coming up a little sooner, though, is Bayonetta 3 with an October 28 release date on Switch. This one was actually a little bit on the surprising side, maybe even a little more surprising than Robocop, some may argue, because this game was rather quiet. It's so quiet that we were thinking to ourselves, is this going to get pushed? Because they just kept saying 2022, and no gameplay. The last time that we did see some gameplay, it looked a little bit on the rougher, much more compressed side. But out of nowhere, Nintendo and Platinum Games dropped a trailer with the release date, and this is the article from Video Games Chronicle, stating the news was shared alongside the publication of a new gameplay trailer, which I did watch, for the sequel, which you can view below, along with 45 new screenshots. This is from the article, like I mentioned. According to Nintendo's new game details shared on Wednesday, Bayonetta 3 will see players meet a veritable coven of Bayonettas, each more fabulous than the last. there might be some spoilers there. So I'm hoping I'm not ruining things, because it sounds like I might be ruining things for myself, because I was gonna say this for the end, but I actually have not played any of the Bayonetta games. I have them. I have 2 on the Switch from that Wii U port, and I got it early on to where they were still throwing in that code for the first Bayonetta. So technically I have Bayonetta 1 and 2 on Switch. And now with 3, that will complete the ensemble. And so there is some time to play them before this comes out on October 28th. The one thing that I do look at and go, ooh, what should I do here, is that apparently if you decide to get Bayonetta on the PlayStation 5, however, which I think is on sale right now for $10, so I'm kind of like, should I just save the money considering my situation, or should I pull the trigger on it, the double trigger, or the V trigger rather, because it's Platinum Games and there's some Devil May Cry ancestry there. But basically, according to articles that I've read online, Bayonetta on PS5 runs at a smooth 60 FPS as opposed to the 30 on the Switch. But Bayonetta 2 is going to run at 30 anyways, and the only way right now, contemporarily speaking, to play Bayonetta 2 is on Switch. Anyways, like, there's no option there. And Bayonetta 3 is going to be on Switch, so might as well play all 3 on the Switch, you know what I'm saying? Like, instead of just having one be on PS5, and then from there, we just have to quite literally switch, pun intended, back onto the Switch. It's like, well, might as well keep all 3 at home on one home, under one roof, right? So that's something that I'm trying to discuss with myself here as we roll on through to October 28th. But basically right here it says, each one more while fighting through the streets of Tokyo, the mountains of China, and beyond. In addition to Bayonetta, players will control feisty witch in training Viola, who's ready to unleash hell on oh Jesus Christ, I don't know what word this is, homunculi, with her sword and her capricious companion, the feline demon Cheshire. In this third installment of the Bayonetta, and there's a bunch of quotes and a bunch of other stuff right here. But what I really want to get to is that alongside the gameplay trailer, they also showcase this thing called the Naive Angel mode that's going to be on Bayonetta 3 for the Switch. And basically what it is, in layman's terms, it's a sensor mode. If you feel like, because it's running on Switch, and Switch is meant to be for a very, children family driven console as opposed to the neighboring PlayStation 5 and Series X, this is still, however, an M-rated game, so some compromises need to be met, and one of those compromises is that they had to throw in a Naive Angel mode, which is pretty much a sensor mode that you could toggle on and off that will cover up a little bit of that there nudity, because Bayonetta is known to be promiscuous. And as far as like what, her revealing outfits and her confidence in them. So with that, a lot of people were kind of going back and forth. Was this necessary? If this was a different console, would they have put it in there? But what I think about is that you can toggle it on and off. So it's dependent on you if you want to leave it on or if you want to leave it off, what have you. Along with that, they also revealed that there's going to be something called a Trinity Masquerade Edition, which is a glorified way of saying that there's going to be a Bayonetta 3 special edition that comes with an art book and art cards along with collectible packaging. I'm pretty surprised that a multitude of times I've actually already seen this on Best Buy available to order, and I'm over here like, if I was doing a little well with money, maybe I would have gotten it, but I'm in no rush. And it's kind of been going in and out of stock. Like, I've seen it sell out and be out of stock, but then later on I'm checking my Twitter, and then all of a sudden I got alerts saying, hey, it's back in stock, and I'm like, I don't know. We'll see where we're at come, let's say, end of August, beginning of September. Maybe if my financial situation gets a little better, maybe I'll pick it up, or maybe I'll just go with the standard edition, or maybe I can, I don't know, try playing the first 2, see if it's a franchise that I want to get into before jumping into 3 here. But yeah, Bayonetta 3 finally with a release date, and so we're gonna get a completion of the franchise. I was worried of checking out this trailer that showcased a little bit of the gameplay, which just seems like traditional Platinum Games style of gameplay, which is quite literally all over the place with different kind of modes and different kind of crazy action set pieces that involve different mechanics. One area you're playing traditional hack and slash stuff that Platinum's is known for, and then there's other segments where Bayonetta's controlling a tank. on rails. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I was kind of worried about spoilers initially, but then again, I feel like Bayonetta is the type of franchise similar to that of Kingdom Hearts, where it's damn near impossible to spoil. Like, I'm watching the trailer and I'm thinking to myself, is there going to be a spoiler here? And shit is just popping off that I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. Maybe it'll make a little bit more sense and get pieced a little better together as we roll through the entries here leading up to the October 28th release date of Bayonetta 3. But for the time being, it's all over the place. But who knows? That could either be a advantage or a disadvantage for the game in my sense. And like I said, this does a good amount of motivation to get me to finally play the Bayonetta games on Switch in time for the release of the third game. So we'll see. Now down to the nitty gritty, the main topic, the main portion of this finale here, which is going to be my Game of the Year check-in. But to do that, we need to get through the What I've Been Playing segment, because I have been playing, as I've been teasing, an actual 2022 game. And above that, a game that is actually being talked about by a lot of people, by a lot of outlets, websites, reviewers, influencers online, when it comes to the video game industry and video game watch, that of a game that could be considered amongst the Game of the Year discussion. It's one of those that's being tossed about, and I finally managed to fire it up, considering that I actually got the Vengeance Edition not too long, like a couple of months ago. It's been a couple of months since I've had this thing wrapped in cellophane. The Vengeance Edition, which comes with a steelbook, an art book, as well as these little like cards and things like that. So it was a very complete package. And I'm referring to, I have to do the sound effects, Sifu. I finally fired up Sifu on my PlayStation 5. Another reason why I also wanted to wait a little while is because outside of hearing people talk about the game, reviewing the game, saying it's one of the better games of the year, I've also seen a good chunk of streams of the game. Enough streams that some story context, not every single thing, but a couple of little things here and there as far as story details and even some gameplay details, gameplay mechanics, and facets of certain boss fights, for example, or certain environments that you get to traverse through, have been more or less kind of spoiled for me. But not in a way, I don't mean that in a very judgmental way. I mean more so in a way where I voluntarily watched the stream because it was one of my favorite streamers, it was one of my favorite content creators, and yeah, that's why I'm like, it was more on me than it was on them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wanted to watch the stream, but they just so happened to be watching or playing Sifu, and I'm like, well, it's probably going to be a while, especially because at the time, especially with a lot of conversation, I think this came out, I want to say, like, the game itself came out at the beginning of February, digitally. The physical editions didn't come out until, I think it was May, either the beginning or ends of May. But that's also another reason why I waited a while to play the game, is because I knew that there was a physical version on the horizon, but also because at the time there was just other things that I wanted to play, and everybody was talking about Sifu, and then in a matter of weeks, Elden Ring was coming out. But another facet about it was that it was also a very challenging game, a very difficult game that was giving a lot of people some rage-induced fits, both live on air with live streams and, off air. And so, I marinated on it a while, but then seeing that there was a physical version that came packaged with an awful lot of stuff for just $10 additional from the regular priced version digitally, I was like, all right, that's what I'll buy. And so I pre-ordered it back in the, earlier this year, when I still had an income flowing. It came through, it got delivered. I put it away for a little while, prioritized other things, and then finally this past week, I loaded it in and thought to myself, okay, it's finally time to play this. Now, at the time of this recording, I have not beaten Sifu. I have not beaten it because I'm currently playing on the regular difficulty, because since the game's release, they have patched this game quite an awful lot, and with a lot of little features, extra costumes, extra accessibility features. But one of the big draws, one of the big things that they incorporated, was pretty much just adding an easy mode and an even harder mode on top of the already unforgiving default difficulty setting that the game was set at, originally made by the developers. Which, of course, at the time, developer Slowclap, they were sparking up the debate similar to that of Elden Ring and From Software games as to whether or not certain games needed to have an easy mode or whatever, what have you. Slow clap then kind of reinstated that the easy mode in this game is not so much easy as it is just easier. It's meant, they're titled student, disciple, and then master. Obviously, there's no fucking way I'm playing on master, because after playing, I want to say about 5 or so-ish hours of this on disciple, I was like, yeah, this is gonna be a chore. But here's where things got a little interesting, because I'm obviously playing this after the patch, after these difficulty modes have been incorporated, and I know that the student mode is there to fall back on. But despite this, I am still, I want to say, around the cusp of 15 hours into this game, and every chance that I get to be able to lower the difficulty so I can progress, which I'm not gonna lie, I might be finally falling on that sword so that I can beat the game and then move on to the next game, move on to the next thing to really talk about for the quote unquote the season 5 premiere, and outside of the spectrum of the Game of the Year watch for the back half of the year. But I'm not gonna lie, what others have said about Sifu being addictive, in the sense that there's always some kind of element, some kind of thing, some kind of addictive nature to the mastery of this game, about that one more factor, that one more run, one more try, one more of this and that. It's there. It really is there here within Sifu, because it's just so fucking satisfying of nailing how to master your light attacks, how to master your heavy attacks, which characters, or I'm sorry, not characters, but rather which enemies deserve being, taken care of quickly via the heavy attacks because they're slower. Sooner, I should say, not quickly, but sooner, using the slower attacks because you can afford the timing, versus where you need to fall back on your dodges with certain boss fights. There's a very methodical way of approaching combat with Sifu that really does feel like Kung Fu. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know it sounds kind of ridiculous, because you are in fact playing a video game and you're not really practicing Kung Fu. You're not really, mastering the art of moving your arms around. But they took the developer, Slow Clap, everybody involved. I don't know specific names, but I can tell that the developers, when it came to gameplay, they looked at the controller and said, how can we make sure that it never once feels like you're button mashing? And that's pretty much the approach that I immediately felt leap off the controller when it was walking me through the first stages, where it's like, hey, yeah, squares for your easy punches, triangles for your heavier attacks, especially linked to that of your legs, because obviously when it comes to our anatomy, our legs are just by default going to be delivering heavier punches, but they're also going to take more time to get across because these are your legs. You're currently right now using them to stand. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit more muscle effort to perform a kick than a punch, because your punch, your arms are already by nature resting, so you're going to be able to go like that easy with a jab, versus a leg. A leg requires an extra little bit of oomph to get going. And it's almost like they took that into account in mapping that to the controllers layout, especially when you start throwing in power attacks, when you start throwing in special moves, combos, dodging, parrying, especially parrying on the L1 button, being able to parry and avoid, especially when you need to angle, I guess you could say, or anchor those dodges and those parries in the direction of your enemy, because then that's again another facet that they try to make sure to not feel very button mashy. Because say, for example, as much as I love the games, the Spider-Man game by Insomniac and then the Batman Arkham games by Rocksteady, when it comes to dodging and parrying in those games, you just have to press the triangle button. Here, L1 lends to how to start a parry, but it doesn't automatically parry you. You need to move the character in the direction of the enemy that's about to hit you, so that then you can actually execute a successful parry. And in doing so, that's how you are in real life. You have to, you can't just deflect an enemy attack from behind, because your attention is not behind you. You need to move your attention in real life, if you were to say, for example, be exercising kung fu, just like on the controller, you need to move the stick in the direction of the enemy to successfully parry. If you just press L1 by itself, it's not going to work. And so building this momentum, almost building like this kind of dance, immediately within the first stage, I'm like, yes. I might suck at first, but I can tell that there's going to be an addictive nature behind mastering the cycle of working those moves over and over. And that's ultimately Sifu's greatest asset, is working that methodical dance of working kung fu just like it would be in a natural way in real life into the controller. And that's how it's able to get by, despite the graphics not being the best. It goes for this cel-shaded, stylistic look to everything that by default does look nice, especially when it's very static in nature. Once you get into a little bit of the motion, you can kind of see a little bit of, quote unquote rubber bandness, where you can kind of tell that this was mostly, and I might be wrong, but I don't know if there was an awful lot of mocap going on, because sometimes characters fall and move about in a very cartoonish kind of way. Sometimes lip sync is downright terrible. I would move the camera around and notice when characters are talking that their mouths are literally just bubbling to formulate words instead of actually lip syncing to whatever it is that they're saying, whether it be in Chinese or English. And here's the thing: I'm playing in Chinese. Actually, there's something about the influence that this game has with how cinematic it can come across with some of the cutscenes, as well as just the overall atmosphere you get whenever you're in combat, especially with the way it marries music and art style. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to play this in English. I actually do want to play this in Chinese. But I put the Chinese audio on, subtitles on, and I'm like, yeah, this feels comfy. This feels at home with what it's striving to go for. Now, with all that said and done, I don't know what it is, but these boss fights are they're trouble. And at the time of this recording, I mentioned that I had not beaten this game, and that's because officially I am stuck on the second phase of the third boss. So I'm more than halfway done with the run. There's 5 stages, so the third boss, and being that the farthest that I've gone is that second phase, is quite something, especially on the default difficulty setting. But man, oh man, I'm getting to the point where it is, on a very personal, preferential standpoint, is becoming tedious. And I really do mean tedious in a way that's specific to just me. Anybody else playing this could probably be like, I'm going to try it again, I'm going to try it again, I'm going to try it again. But here's the context that I need to deliver here, is that for those of you who don't know, one of the big draws to the difficulty that is Sifu is that there's kind of like a roguelite mechanic. It's kind of roguelite-ish, but not full-on roguelike or roguelite, and even the developers will come to the forefront of saying that this is not a roguelike, but it kind of is and kind of isn't, because there's a life and death mechanic. Every time that you die, you age a little bit. And once you reach a certain age, generally somewhere between the mid-70s to 80s, you die permanently, and you have to start from either the beginning of the stage that you died in, or if you manage to get to the second or third stage. Like, say, for example, you start a run, and you manage to beat the first boss. You get to the second boss, you die permanently. You can either start from the first stage, or start from the beginning of the second stage, because you unlocked the second stage. However, whatever age you enter that second stage in, that's the age you start off. So you start by default at the very beginning of the game, you start at age 20. If you enter stage, let's say you get to the final boss of the first stage, and you die a couple of times and you age from age 20 to age 27, 28, but you finally beat that boss. When you enter and unlock the second stage, you will start at age 28. Which means you're closer to your actual permanent death than you were at the beginning of the first stage. It's very difficult to really articulate that on podcast or in audio form. Like, this is one of those cases where even I was kind of confused, but once I started to go through my runs like 2, 3, 4 times in game, it finally made sense to me, where it takes a very arcade-like approach to how you tackle these runs. And because of this, another weak point of the game is the story. It's very stereotypical vengeance type tropish work. There's nothing really that stands out about it except that you're trying to exact revenge on, your father being killed. Traditional, no spoilers. It's right at the beginning of the game. It's as as traditional and as bare bones as it comes. But that's just it. It's just there to anchor across the gameplay mechanics, which is, like I said, the kung fu, how it's mapped to the controllers, how it's addictive, but also how it's able to work that life and death mechanic in a way where it raises the stakes. The issue with me personally is that there's also these upgrades, right? There's an upgrade tree. And whenever you beat enemies, whether it be your standard fodder at the very beginning or your boss fights, you earn a cumulative amount of XP points that could be used to upgrade to unlock skills, to unlock upgrades. And these upgrades, they're very weirdly layered because you can unlock them through runs, but they're not permanently unlocked unless you bank enough XP into each skill. And again, the only way to really articulate how this works is through examples. So there's certain skills. Say, for example, there's a skill that requires 500 XP to unlock, but it only unlocks for that run. To permanently unlock it, you need to pour 500 XP into it 5 more times, on top of the 500 you already used to unlock it for that run. During that run, you can then put 500 once, 500 twice. But let's say you die. When you come back, you have to unlock it again, but then you don't have to do the 500 5 times again. If you already did 1,000 into it, then now you only need to put in 500 3 times. You know what I'm saying? So instead of a total of 2,000 points, you need to only put in 1,500 or something like that. On top of the 500, you need to first unlock it. It's almost like peeling one layer and then peeling multiple layers, but then those multiple layers, if you did it before, you don't have to do it again as long as you don't start a new game. Again, it's very difficult to explain. It needs visuals. You need to either look up a YouTube video or something like that. It's very difficult to come across here on podcast format. But basically, this upgrade system I latched onto and I grinded it out. Unfortunately, this ended up being a gift and a curse, because the gift portion of this grind out that I did was being able to pretty much upgrade the entire tree, at least for the majority. I don't know if there's any extra moves that are probably hidden within the environment or something that I kind of overlooked, but so far every single upgrade I've unlocked. And that the gift is knowing that that's lended to a new style of combat, new moves that I can utilize, new ways to kill enemies faster, to go through environments quicker, to take down enemies in a much expedited format. The curse, however, is that it has legitimately worn me out of some of these environments and over the overall game as a whole, to where I'm at that threshold after about 15 hours of grinding out these XP, these enemies over and over and over, and unlocking these upgrades. I'm at the point where I'm ready to move on. And these boss fights, especially the second one, not so much the third one, even though I'm still stuck at her, but it's the second one, the second boss fight, who is an absolute bitch. I just do not get how to combat this guy. But I mean, eventually I did get past him and I defeated him, but it never felt as a matter of skill. It felt more like as a matter of luck, really. Like I just got lucky because I managed to get enough moves in there, or I dodged at the right time, or what have you. I was never able to figure out a concrete pattern. I feel like I can figure out a pattern for the third boss, but not so much for the second boss. And in all this, it's just making me just a little exhausted by the game, that I'm ready for it to be over. And that's why right now, even though I'm still on the default difficulty setting, I am teetering on lowering it to student and just now with all my upgrades, just powering through the third boss and powering through the last 2 levels of the game and just rolling credits. What keeps me from wanting to do that is a little bit of ego, a little bit of pride, to be like, okay, should I just, follow the the stereotypical advice that people say about Dark Souls games and difficult games: get good. Is it a me problem? I don't know what it is, but like I said, dying over and over, especially when there's times where the game does feel just a little cheap, just a little bit, where I could have sworn on my girlfriend, on my mother, on my family, on everything that is holy, that I pressed the L1 button to deflect and to parry, and the game said, nah, I'm gonna choose to say no. It's like that window to parry is so small and has to be so precise that I'm like, I'm not having fun anymore. It started off being fun, but now it's not fun. It's just being fucking annoying. And it's you know what? Out of all games, what it's reminding me of? It's reminding me of Mario Maker, where some people would make Mario Maker 2 levels that need pinpoint accuracy for you as a Mario player, as a Mario platformer. That I'm like, I can't do it. My brain just doesn't operate that way. And there's times where Sifu is demanding that out of me. Mainly, like I said, with boss fights. But even after a little while, it starts to happen with even regular enemies. That I'm like, is it just me? Or whenever I play this game, I have like a 45 minute to 60-minute time limit before I just start to suck. And it starts to get exhausting. And now knowing that I've upgraded my character, I've unlocked every single skill, every brand new upgrade of that skill, and I'm still having those moments. I'm still going through my emotions where I'm like, after an hour, I'm not having that much fun anymore. I'm like, I think it's time to, pull it back to pull the difficulty down to student. The one thing that's keeping me from doing it, aside from pride and ego, is that once you revert to student, that's it. You're stuck. In order to go back up to the medium standard difficulty, you need to start a brand new game from scratch. And I don't know if I'm ready to do that yet. So I guess I'll leave you guys on a cliffhanger there for the Season 5 premiere as to whether or not I beat Sifu on standard difficulty, or if I bit the bullet and I went ahead and lowered the difficulty to student just to get past it and move on to the next game, or if I decided to take a break from it. That way I feel reinvigorated, train in the woods on my own and figure my own shit out. I don't know. I guess I'll leave you guys with that, like I said, that cliffhanger for the Season 5 premiere. But for the time being, let's move on to how Sifu could potentially fit into the Game of the Year discussion. Alright, so as I pull up my list of the games that I have played for 2022, no, as I mentioned before, Elden Ring is not one of them. So if you're looking for Elden Ring to just pretty much dominate the entire discussion, it's not going to be. Before I get to the list, though, I guess I should probably just answer the question since I just talked about it. Sifu, will that be Game of the Year material? I would say, yeah, maybe, despite the exhaustion that I'm feeling. Like I said, it's possible that maybe right now I'm just talking out of my ass. And maybe after a little while I might go, you know what, I'm not going to lower the difficulty, but instead I will take a break from the game, focus on other games, play some other stuff that's here on my list of backlogs of games that I technically still own, want to get back to, and games that might be coming out here in the foreseeable future, and hopefully finances will allow me to acquire them. And then eventually get back to Sifu to see if we can really, because it happens a lot to a lot of us gamers where we're stuck in a part with the difficulty, and it also begs the question, like, if it wasn't for the new difficulty options, the new student option, and if they hadn't done that, would I have given up on the game? Or progressed, or given myself a break? I don't know. Like, that's a very introspective look about the game that, I feel more introspective of versus other games that I would have probably looked at and said, nah, this is not worth my time. I give up on it. I'm done. I'm not feeling that way about Sifu. I just want to, think about it really long and hard before I make any kind of judgment call or decision on it. So, Sifu, I would say, yeah, the way it's I know I'm overusing this word a lot, but the way it methodically maps those mechanics to the controller in a very natural way that feels legitimately like Kung Fu or anything like that is like, yeah, this could legitimately work into the Game of the Year discussion. Now, as for the games that I actually have played for the year, there's been a grand total, not including Sifu, including Sifu, I should say, 15. So let me read them. Actually, no, let's go back to 14, because one of them I technically didn't play. I just decided to postpone, and that was the one that I mentioned from last week, which was Lego Star Wars. I started it. It was honestly the ugliest looking experience for Lego Star Wars that I know could be better on other platforms, so I'm putting that off until later in the year when I manage to nab a copy on PS5 or Series X. So that one's gonna have to wait. And again, we're taking Sifu out of the discussion. We just talked about it. So now mentioning the other games involved in the Game of the Year discussion, I'm gonna list them right here. Well, here's the thing. I'm gonna list all the games that I played. Whether they're in the Game of the Year discussion, we'll break that down here. But the games I've played in total for 2022 are Rainbow Six Extraction, Paparazzi, yes, I actually just said that, Dying Light 2, Horizon Forbidden West, Triangle Strategy, Tunic, Weird West, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, Trek to Yomi, The Quarry, Ghostwire Tokyo, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and I'll go ahead and throw it in there for good measure, especially since now the open beta, as we talked about earlier in this episode, and what people are probably, getting their feet wet in right now, Multiversus. So, those are so for the games I played for 2022. Now, of course, there's a couple of caveats here. Weird West, I actually have not beaten yet. I've played, like I said, a handful of hours. Similar to that of like the debate, the inner turmoil that I'm having right now with Sifu, kind of having a similar thing with Weird West, except it was a little easier to let go of that one, where I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and play some other stuff. I'm not really gonna focus on this right now. So we can kind of move that out of the discussion. So let's go ahead and go down the list here as far as what's for sure gonna show up on that top 5 and what's definitely being kind of tossed around as far as that discussion. For sure, Horizon Forbidden West. Like, that is definitely was a really good, solid experience, a really good follow-up to the first game with significant improvements on a technical level and a gameplay level. But likewise, there's also some things that I do feel like the first one did just a little better than the second, but it was still an overall great experience. Kirby in the Forgotten Land was also pretty decent. It does some things that I personally am able to forgive. I just have a little bit of a jaded approach, a jaded regard, because of the fact that it's Nintendo and they're getting away with it a little more lenient than other developers are able to do. So that's my only little personal chip on my shoulder. But otherwise, yeah, I would probably say Kirby might actually kind of be in there. I gotta be honest, I would say that those are probably my two definitives. Like, yeah, they'll be in there. I would probably maybe even say if they could, tweak the gameplay, tweak the servers and the rollback netcode. One of the funnest experiences this year for me has in fact been Multiversus, grinding out Harley. I can't believe I'm saying it like that. But basically having Harley Quinn be my main, and I genuinely had an awful lot of fun playing that game. It's considered more as an underrated gem. I don't know if it'll actually be, I guess right now, gun to my head, it is in my top 5, but it does have the potential to be weeded out should better, which will probably likely happen, better stuff come out and better games be played. But Triangle Strategy was actually a very, really well-made, thought-provoking strategy game from the guys over at the folks over at Square Enix that also concocted Octopath Traveler and one of the better experiences on the Switch. Again, I'm still considering Sifu in that discussion. I know other people would probably mention Tunic, but there were some things about Tunic that I generally did not like, that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And then Tiny Tina's Wonderlands was a checkbox game that, even though I did have fun, it did have an awful lot of those trappings that a lot of those open world looter shooter games have, where I mentioned in my breakdown of that game that it was a game that probably would be in my game of the year discussion if we were still in like 2013, 2014. But now games have gone such a long way. Same thing with Dying Light 2. Dying Light 2 had so many great fun moments, but it also had so many problems with it, both on a technical level and on a writing standpoint, with the writing of that game and the way that that game is pieced together, that it's definitely an imperfect little gem that I can maybe put in my top 5 right now, but I know for a fucking fact, that maybe once I play Elden Ring, and then for damn sure when Plague Tale and God of War come out, that thing's getting bumped off. I can already tell you. So the fact that I already know ahead of time that those games are probably going to be bumped off, it's like, should I even consider them whatsoever? And then, of course, we have a couple of other games here that I know for a fact will not be in the discussion, such as The Quarry, Ghostwire Tokyo. I mentioned the problems that those games have. Paparazzi, it was on Game Pass, and it involved dogs, so that's obviously. And same thing with Rainbow Six Extraction. That game, for damn sure, I would not have played if it was not on Game Pass. So, yeah, I know it's one of those very strange occurrences where even though I managed to play 15 games so far in this first half of the year, ish, roughly 15 games, there's not a whole lot that I can really discuss because, the games that are worthy of being in the Game of the Year discussion, there's not very many of them. And then the others that I have played, they're good, but they're not great enough to really create a sense of competition within those games that are worth the accolade. You know what I'm saying? And again, this is a list coming off of somebody who has not played Elden Ring, has yet to play Pokemon Legends Arceus. I guess we could use this as a segue into the games that I have yet to play. So these are games that I own, and I just have to get them out of the way. Pokemon Legends Arceus. I said Arceus, didn't I? Arceus. Elden Ring. Infernax, which is on Game Pass, is this nice little side scroller that I hear is pretty good. Nobody Saves the World. And that's really about it. Of course, we also have Sifu and Weird West to get back into, games that I've started but I have not completed. I have not rolled credits on. Then we have 2 games that are currently out but I have not purchased for different reasons. Obviously, one of them being that I don't have a job right now and I'm trying to save up a little bit of money, but there's also other couple of circumstances. But those 2 games are Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin, and Stray. I know that that's the big one that everybody's talking about right now, the kitty game Stray. I'm telling you right now, I know people are saying that it's a great game, but I just can't bring, what is it, like $30? I can't bring myself to pour down $30 for a game that I know I can beat, quite frankly, in a day, 5 hours, less than a day. If I'm going to get that game, it's going to be through my upgrade of either to the extra or premium tier of PlayStation Plus. There's no way I'm doing it any other way, because that's probably the best way I can get my value out of it. I'll get Stray, I'll get the Iki expansion for Ghost of Tsushima, I'll get a handful of other stuff that's bundled in there with those tiers. There's more value out of that. There's no way I'm playing Stray outside of one of those 2 upgrades. That's all I'm telling you guys. Then let's look at the remainder of the game. The remainder of the year for confirmed dates. In September, at least for my radar. Obviously, everybody's radar is going to differentiate, and obviously, if you don't hear the game, a particular game you're excited for, that's because this is my personal list. Your list may vary. So in September, we have Splatoon 3 on September 9th, and then we have a game called Evil West coming out September 20th, which looks pretty interesting. It's actually kind of like Weird West, except more third-person action as opposed to RPG, over-the-top, top-down RPG sim. A lot of West-related games coming out this year. Weird West, Evil West. I hear there's another one called Hard West or Hard West 2. Guys, we got to change the titles, please. I'm getting them confused. And no, I'm sorry, I am in no way, shape, or form excited for The Last of Us remake. I'm not. I'm not including that on the list. Even after that 10-minute gameplay deep dive after the leaks, I'm not swayed. I really am not. They could tout about all the features, but there's nothing about those features that make me go, yes. Jeremy from Gamer2323, he said it best. If it was like 30 or 40, maybe, and if I had the money, if I was in good standing financially, maybe, but 70? Like a brand new game when all they're really doing is just adding accessibility features, tweaking the AI, tweaking a little bit of the haptics, adding workbenches, and then of course the big aspect of it all is of course the overhauled visuals. There's just, it's not, I don't know, it feels more like the way that they did Mafia, but because I never played Mafia, I was down, and even that wasn't full 60. I think that was like 40 or 50, wasn't it? No, yeah, I think it was 40. I think that was 40. Come on, guys. Like, that's why. If it was like 30 or 40, I definitely would be buying Last of Us in September and trying it out again. But 70, I'm like, nah. I'd rather take that 70 and put it towards something brand new. So that's pretty much it in September. Then we got what is quintessentially becoming Broketober. In October, we have Marvel Midnight Suns on October 7th. Plague Tale Requiem on October 18th, which is coming to Game Pass, so that's obviously day one. Mario Rabbids Spark of Hope on October 20th, which might have to take a backseat because, again, we already got so much coming out in October. Plus, it's coming from Ubisoft, and Ubisoft is on a little bit of a timeout right now with their practices, so they got a little bit of a scolding from me there. October 25th, Gotham Knights, which just had a brand new trailer on Batgirl debut at Comic-Con, and I actually did a video on it, so go and check it out on the Niche channel, link in the description. And then on October 28th, Bayonetta 3. Holy shit, that's an awful lot coming out in October. Of course, in November, boy, God of War Ragnarok, November 9th. You know for a fucking fact, everything is stopping then. I already told my girlfriend I'm not going to be available at that time for November 9th for God of War Ragnarok. There's no fucking way I'm doing anything else except playing that game. A day before that, though, Ubisoft is releasing Skull and Bones. As I mentioned in last week's episode, I don't care. I really, really, really do not care for Skull and Bones. So if you guys are hyped for it, I'm happy for you. But in terms of November, that's all I'm really excited for. No Modern Warfare 2 hype from me. That's it. It's just God of War. It really is just God of War. And thankfully, there's a good amount of time there to sink my teeth very deep into God of War Ragnarok because on December 2nd, we have the Callisto Protocol, which is another day one from me for sure. Now, there are 5 other games that are on my radar. Unfortunately, they don't have dates, but they are still technically slated, as of right now, for 2022 unless they get delayed. And those games are Hogwarts Legacy, which is set for winter 2022, Hellblade 2, which is just says 2022 and supposedly it's coming to Game Pass, Oxenfree 2, Sonic Frontiers, and Atomic Heart. Atomic Heart is also a Game Pass day one release. But those are all games that are technically still slated for 2022, but no dates. And as long as we don't have a date, we also need to be open to the idea that they might also get delayed. So we'll have to keep, that's interesting. We'll just have to keep, optimistic somewhat. And that's me, I don't know if it's coming across well on podcast, but as I said the word optimistic, I'm squinting my face very hard. Not only because I'm generally not an optimistic person, but also because that comes on the foothills of Avatar game getting delayed. So there's also that. And that was also, I think, coming from Ubisoft, if I was not mistaken. So it does look like there's just a little bit more to look forward to in the back half of 2022 than there was in the first half. But I think we all kind of saw that a little bit coming because of the pandemic, because of the way that work conditions have kind of created a little bit of a full court press on the way developers tackle games. Because we all knew that 2020 and even a little bit of 2021 wasn't really going to suffer all that much. It was going to be the back half of 2021 and then a good majority of 2022 that was going to suffer because that's the games that were supposed to come out this year were being developed in 2020 when the pandemic first broke out, and that caused the problems. And that's why we're starting to see the ripple effect kind of, course on through and having an effect on the industry. But overall, I know that I didn't exactly have like the meatiest of Game of the Year discussions here, but it really is just that simple. That right now in the running is most definitely Sifu, Horizon 2, maybe a little bit of Triangle Strategy, but there's an awful lot still on the horizon. Like I said, I'm definitely working my way towards building up the courage to play Elden Ring. It'll probably be after my birthday because I feel like pragmatically it'll make more sense to play Pokemon Legends Arceus during my birthday because we're going to be out of town, so playing on the Switch portably makes sense. And when I come back, if there's still no changes in work and finances or whatever, I'll be like, well, since I'm still at home, let's play some Elden Ring, and maybe I'll have I'll have like a weekly check-in on my progress in Elden Ring, because I know for a fucking fact I'm not beating that from one week to the next. It's just not gonna happen. But that about does it, guys. If you guys are either watching this through the YouTube video version on the channel, or if you guys are listening to it on a podcast platform of choice that just happens to have a comment section, let me know what are your guys' current Game of the Year selection thus far. Now that we're officially halfway through the year, good fucking God, it's just coursing right through, isn't it? Scary. But as always, guys, that about does it for not only the final episode of the DarkspiderCast Season 4, but the season as a whole. I'll be taking a week break, or taking a week off, so in 2 weeks' time, I'll be back to talk to you guys on the Season 5 premiere of the DarkspiderCast. In the meantime, you guys know where to find me when I'm not online or not producing content. The Twitter, the Instagram, at DarkspiderDavid, all one word, no caps, or you guys can find the links in the description. The niche channel still going strong. The Spider-Man Lotus video took off, so again, you guys can check that out. Otherwise, other Batman and Spider-Man related content will go up on there, the website, and all that fun jazz. My voice is officially tired, guys. I once again want to say thank you for listening to my spiels all this whole time. Again, it's been a trying few months, but I'm still hanging in there, and I'm hoping that if anybody's listening to this and you're going through it the same way that I am, hey, I'm still here, and so are you. Stay humble, guys. Take care, and I'll see you in 2 weeks' time.